Welcome to the podcast, Narcissist, I'm Asking for a Friend. Karen Maldonado and Tyler King are talking about how narcissists become who they are, common issues that arise when doing life with a narcissist, and some episodes will include special guests. So listen in and learn from two people who have an abundance of experience on the subject.
Hello, everyone. We are back for another episode. My name is Tyler, and I have my colleague and partner here,
Karen Maldonado.
And we're here to tell you how to spot a narcissist and the key signs in dating. So, Karen, I know that you have had a lot of experience in this as far as with you being a therapist, and you've dealt with a lot of people coming in with questions and issues in regarding to that. I just wanted to kind of go into what are some of the things that you've noticed with clients that have come in?
Okay, well, that's a good point, because I have a lot of clients that come in and say, I just wish that I knew before I invested too much time with this person that this was actually the problem that I was dealing with, because I had no idea what this even was. And so, they kind of thought along the way that maybe they could even, do something to fix the person or help the person understand that, some of the things that they were doing in the relationship, it's troubling. And so I said, okay, well, let's try to come up with some thoughts. And so over the years, I've come up with thoughts for different people, because narcissists are usually very attracted to very empathic people. And so if you are
wait a minute. So when you're saying an empathic person, what does that mean exactly? When you're saying like an empath?
You're good at putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And you're able to kind of, even if you don't completely agree with them, you're able to gain an idea of their perspective. And you don't think of their perspective as wrong, because you understand, if you have an empathy, then you understand that it may not be exactly how you feel, but you can grasp that, something might be hard for them, or something might be, even triggering or something. And so you can definitely, gain some kind of an understanding so that that person actually feels validated to having the feelings that they have. Narcissists are not very good at validating.
Okay, so, that brings up a good point, because I know that, as far as from my own personal experience with dealing with, a narcissist type person, or at least the traits were there. It seemed like I was empathizing, at least now that you're explaining it, I feel like I was empathizing, because it's like they have like this sob story or something that they tell you in the beginning. And it's almost like what was that? Like they'll tell you something maybe really tragic that happened in their childhood, or they'll talk about some type of event that was so horrible, and that basically they were just this victim of whatever it was. And you really start to feel sorry. At least that's how I felt. I felt like, oh wow, I feel sorry for this person. I can't believe they went through this. And it made me look at them a little bit different. So I wanted to find out from you, is that something that maybe, like, because of maybe situations from my own childhood, that I maybe empathize more with people in situations like that, like maybe coming from a family background where there was a lot of narcissism? So
yes,
like,
and
how do you explain that?
Yeah, there's actually a term called repetition compulsion. And so that basically means that you have this compulsion to even almost recreate that difficult childhood relationship that you had with that other person, recreate it in your adult life now with another person, and then it's really like a subconscious thing that goes on, where it's almost like you're wanting to recreate it with the hope that it'll have a happier ending, that that person would actually be able to empathize with you, and that person would actually be able to speak things into your life that are positive things, that make you feel good about you and validate you, and those types of things. And so your drive almost to recreate, it's not a conscious thing that goes on, it's just you're attracted to it. And then some people will say, well, you're just attracted to what you're used to, and that's probably a simpler way to say it. But some people, they'll have like an instantaneous knowing that, wait a minute, this is not a safe place, I didn't feel good in this. And so there are some people that know, they need to run from that. But some people, it's just it's this compulsion. They don't understand it. They just go with it. And so
Is that similar to a trauma bond, or am I like thinking of something completely different? I'm trying to get my terms and make sure I understand it correctly. So you're
Yeah.
saying that because like I had an experience in childhood where I experienced some things as far as a lot of control, manipulation. So now I am like empathizing with that person telling me their sob story or whatever it was that happened in their childhood. And I'm actually looking for maybe validation through them, hoping that maybe they'll be able to empathize with me because they had this a traumatic or whatever experience, or am I off a little bit?
Right. Well, the trauma bond is basically something that happens with a person that is the narcissist. So the person that's the abused, I guess we'll call them for this.
Right.
That person will oftentimes, work really hard at becoming loved, becoming cherished by that person. They work really hard at getting approval. And
Right.
so they'll do things, they'll do all kinds of things to try to be a person that fixes the tension, basically. And so if that was your way of doing things as a younger person, then here you are, an adult person, and then you've got someone else that you're just so used to playing that role of bonding in a good way with a difficult person. You don't even realize probably that this person is difficult because there's not enough other signs yet, because it's a new relationship, right? And so it might even just be a friendship. It might not be like a dating experience. So yeah, trauma bonding is definitely something that is another thing that happens subconsciously. People don't understand that that's what they're doing. It's a knee-jerk reaction that they have because they don't know how to speak up for themselves. Most empathetic people are not very controlling type of people. They're more, a lot of times more passive. And so they don't even realize that these things are actually happening. So that's why it's important to have like a podcast like this or something that people can come to, that they can be like, oh, that's what's happening. Now I understand this better. Now I know going forward what to look out for. So, let's talk about another thing. It kind of goes along with what you were talking about there. Date. Let's just say we're talking about dating now. You're on a date. Does this person talk only about his stuff? Or is he asking you questions about your things, like what you do for a living, and maybe a little bit about what your family of origin, you have siblings, your parents both alive, what do you like to do as a hobby? Are they asking you those kinds of questions, or is it all about what they're doing and all the excitement that they have in their lives, and are they painting this huge picture and image that they want you to look at and fall in love with? So it's, something to be watching.
Well, that's a good point that you bring that up, because I know definitely for me, I've experienced just a lot of talking about themselves and just saying, oh, they've done this or they've made this much revenue in this whatever job, whether it be as a general manager or whatever it is they're doing, that oh, they had this deal or they're connecting with this person. And it's like, it's always about, it's almost shallow. It's always about accomplishments and money or possessions, and it really seemed to focus on them, and it wasn't really about like other people. I don't know. So it's like, you're right. I guess I just didn't really notice it. So that's interesting you say that, because when you are dating people, you're like trying to put your best foot forward. You're trying to really get to know them, and you don't want to seem rude by like kind of trying to share things about yourself, but then they kind of keep switching it up back to them. So what are some things that, if you're either starting dating a relationship, maybe you just got out of a really toxic or narcissistic relationship, and now you're trying to start dating again, you're healed and you're trying to, get back into the dating, what would you recommend or say would be the best way to spot these signs? You know what I mean? To be able to detect these things early on, so that you don't waste months, years into a relationship and possibly maybe accidentally get married to that person. So what would you say?
Well, a true narcissist actually is all about trying to create an image for the person they're dating, but everybody, they want everybody to know that they drive the nice car, they have the great career, the job is fantastic. Maybe they have a beautiful house, or, you know, if they're starting out in life, then maybe a nice apartment or whatever. So it's all about what they have, their possessions, how they look. And then also it's important for them to pick somebody that they date that, something about that person would make other people be like, wow, look at that, you know, either she's, you know, pretty, or she's also, you know, some type of career woman. And so it's creating the image that is really important for the narcissist. And so, you know, on a date, you want to check also, like, when they're with other, you know, with you, and there's other people there, are they kind to those other people? Like in this case, maybe wait staff, right? You're at a restaurant, and you know, what are they doing as far as how they're treating the wait staff? Do they, you know, act, you know, you don't always get your food the way you ordered it, right? So then sometimes you might want to, you know, ask for a change or something. Are they kind about it? You know, do they tip? You know, and do they tip nicely? If they're so, you know, they have all these great things, well, then they should be generous with their tips, right? So these are little signs. Are they being empathetic with somebody that has a job as a waiter or a waitress, right? You know, okay, so you make so much money, how about helping them? So
is this the type of person, you go to the restaurant, they get the food, and maybe it's supposed to be well done, but it's like medium rare, and they're like, oh my gosh, what is it? Like, what's going on with this place? Do they just start going off? Like what is their reaction to, they ask for it well done, they get it medium rare. Do they just like blow a gasket? Do they start saying, hey, you come here, like, I didn't ask for this? Like, how do they?
Yes. And actually, it's funny, my name is Karen, so I would say probably the person could be labeled a Karen also. So,
right.
I want to talk to the manager.
Right. I want to talk to the manager, or, you know, I can say this, and, you know, they just kind of over like react. Would you call that like overreact to things that could be handled with a simple conversation?
Yes. Let's create the drama now. Okay. And so the drama, you know, in a dating situation, you might not see as much of it at the very beginning, because like you said, we all try to put our best foot forward in a new relationship, right? So that's why it's important. I always tell people, season the relationship. That means go through the 4 seasons of the year before you start talking about putting a ring on your finger. So you're really wanting to look for signs that this person is getting comfortable with you now and starting to show the real him or the real her, because this is not just a gender, you know, thing, not just men that are narcissists. Yes, true. In my own practice, I would say the majority of them were. You know, the people that would come to me were the females that were struggling with the narcissistic abuse. But I have had women that were the narcissists, and the husbands would come, or the partners would come and see me. And honestly, the women were the more difficult ones. So, you know, it's a matter of control too. So does this person show signs that they are trying to control everything? In the beginning, the control can actually look nice. Here's an example. And this was not a client. This was actually a friend of mine. And her partner would go to the store and buy her outfits and dress her up like a Barbie doll. But it was part of the image he was trying to create, right? So she had to wear the clothing that he would pick for her. And at first that seemed so thoughtful. What? He's buying you those things? Who does that? So you have to kind of watch and see, is it all altruistic? You know, when I say altruistic, I mean things that he's not expecting anything in return or not getting anything out of it. Is that what this action is? Or is it something that's building the image for him? So
what about even like your hair? Like they try to control how your hair, like you as a woman, you know, we're women and we love to, our hair is our beauty, and we love to do things with our hair, change it up. But are they, would they be the type that would even try to control? Like for me, I have my hair like this, but then they'll say, well, you know, I think you should wear braids or cornrows, or you should do something else, and I think this would look better on you. So do they try to enforce their will upon you for how you look?
Yes, the way you look, the clothing that you wear.
Mhm.
I've had several where the husbands were telling the wives what clothing to wear. Some because they wanted their wives to look a little more sexy,
Right.
some because they didn't want their wives to look sexy at all. So it just, that's just an example. But yeah. So just there are little signs and you want to be watching for them. And so
Okay, wow, that is so interesting. So definitely I want y'all to plug in, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and ask your questions and comment, because we need you all to like and share this and get this information out, because we are definitely trying to make sure we get the word out. We have some more science for you to look at when you're dating, so make sure you stay plugged in.
Mhm.
What are some other things that you would say that you've noticed with either past clients, friends, whoever, that they're like, does this person have these narcissistic traits, or these traits that just seem a little unsettling, and I just don't know how to pinpoint what's going on here? What else would you say?
um are they kind also with like remembering your birthday
Oh, so
or
remembering
special days?
milestones.
Yeah, and do they honor that day in a nice way? Do they give you a birthday card? Do they,
Okay.
and not everybody needs to have a gift, but if that's your love language, especially if you've been dating for a while, are
Right.
they careful to make sure that they are being sensitive to what you really like, what's going to make you feel cared for and at some point loved, what are they doing to be conscious and thoughtful of you?
It's so crazy. I want to ask this because I'm just, like I said, we're the narcissist. I'm asking for a friend, right? So I'm asking for a friend. When a person that's a narcissist, or at least have the tendencies, right, would say, like, it's your birthday, maybe a anniversary, or some kind of special event,
Mhm.
would they literally do something to sabotage it, to make it about them, if it's like your day? So like it's like or something you share together, anniversary, a birthday, something, and then they decide, I'm going to cancel, like I'm going to have a doctor's appointment, a surgery, a procedure, or something. Like, they will do something to basically not make it
Sabotage.
about you, but make it about them, to kind of flip it. Would they do
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah, and it could be anything that they can do to take the spotlight off of someone else that it's supposed to be on at the moment and put it on
Right.
themselves and their own wants and needs, they're going to do it. So, and I'm talking about a person that is a full-fledged narcissist. Now,
Mhm.
there's criteria that they have to meet to be diagnosed as a narcissist. They
Right.
might meet, some people that you date may actually only meet 4 of those things and not actually be diagnosable. And so in
Right.
that case, then it's a matter of you being able to say, are these things I could live with for the rest of my life? Or
Right.
do I think I need to bow out now? So,
Right.
if
Right.
you're only seeing a few tendencies, because we all have a level of narcissism in
Oh
us,
yeah.
right? And
Oh yeah.
so, where are they on this continuum? Is
Right.
it everything that we are talking about that they do? Or is
Right.
it just sometimes they can be a little bit more selfish about, you know, where they want to go to the restaurant, or I've seen them get a little ticked off by a waitress or whatever. I'm talking about somebody it's pervasive. It surrounds every area of their life. And you're not going to find that out until you date somebody for, season the relationship, like I said. So,
Uh,
although if it's a person that really has no self-awareness, you might see it right away and you'll know.
right. Because remember, there's nothing wrong with them. So you're right. The
Exactly.
self-awareness
They
is
think
not
there's
there.
nothing wrong with them. Exactly. Yeah.
So I would even go as far as to say, you said birthdays and things like that, things that maybe for you, like, let's say, what about even like a like Mother's Day? It doesn't even have to be specific to you, like, only, but like an event like maybe Mother's Day, or like
Mhm.
whatever
Oh,
it is that celebrates
oh yeah.
you.
And
Um,
I've heard it said before where, the narcissist will say to the mom of their children,
right.
you're not my mother. So they don't get
Ah,
anything. They don't give
wow.
anything.
So they don't even, because so they're in their mind, They're saying because you are not their mother, you're not worthy of being honored on Mother's Day, even though you're a mother and even the mother of your own children.
Yes, yes.
So it's probably even worse if you're the mother of someone else's children that's not theirs, right? And you're in a relationship with them, it'll probably be worse.
That would be worse. Yes, yes. So yeah, it's dishonoring. I've heard that same statement said to me by several women that have had that situation. So it's more common. Yeah. Now, are every one of those men that I've heard that this was said, are every one of them narcissists? Not all of them,
Right.
but some of the good, I'd say a good majority of them were.
Good majority of them. Wow, that is amazing. So even like things like, and we're going to go in a whole twist on this one, Valentine's Day. Would they be the type of person that would have this blow up argument maybe right before Valentine's Day? Let's say, or even
they don't have to get you a gift.
That's what I was getting to. So would they honestly do that? All of a sudden, just like out of nowhere, just have this full blown argument or critique something and it just gets blown out way out of proportion. Wow.
It's all about head games. It's all about doing things to make the person that is the victim of the abusive behavior. And, some people may be listening and saying, well, it's not really abusive. It's just words and things that they're doing, but they're not punching. It's abusive when it's done to try to create mental and emotional pain. So it may not be jailable, but it's definitely hurtful, and it could create to live with someone like that on a daily basis and a yearly basis, and to have all these special days to be ignored. It creates a great deal of pain.
Well, from what I have if I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, they said, from what I understand, emotional abuse can be even worse than the physical abuse because of the mental torment that's happening, and almost kind of like the gaslighting and mind games that kind of make you not your perception of reality, making you try to like kind of almost go out of your mind. So I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, and of course, there's no physical evidence that it's worse than getting punched, but over time, a person that has adrenaline flowing through their body, a person that's full of anxiety, the victim of narcissism is full of anxiety because they're walking on eggshells. They don't know what they're supposed to do next, right? And so they do this thing where they try to, live life without, showing too much emotion and getting that person upset, right? Because there's a lecture usually or some kind of narcissistic rage that they have to deal with if that happens. And so they're trying to keep peace. They're peacemakers. They're empathic people, right? So they're gentle. They're kinder. So the adrenaline that's in the body of the victim of this type of behavior, so adrenaline is so that we can fight, we can run from the tiger, we can, do something that gives us, more, and takes that extra energy, right, to do it.
Oh, yeah.
We're not using the adrenaline. It's just floating around in the body, and then it goes into the organs. And so we don't really know, between cortisol in the body and all these negative hormones from a person being so upset all the time, we don't really know the damage that's being done because we can't really watch it, right? Physically see this evidence that it's happening. But over time, the person is going to, it's going to wear on them, and they're going to wind up in the doctor's office, and they're going to wind up needing to take some type of medication or do something to feel better and come see a therapist, right? So all these things that are happening to them, and it's distressing.
Well, I was watching Joyce Meyer this morning, and I remember her talking about that when someone's getting really angry or anxious and they have all those bottled up emotions, it's almost as much as if you put in an 8-hour workday. So just imagine all that mental strain, emotional, the body getting hyped up and tensed up, the inside. And then, like you said, nothing is being done with all of that that's going on inside of you. And it's just kind of left there. And you're dealing with that day after day after day with this person. I mean, I can only imagine what that would do to you.
Yeah.
So again, I want to make sure we don't miss anything because I know there was a couple other things you wanted to
Yeah.
touch on.
Yeah.
What are some other things that we can address just to make
Okay.
sure we
Yeah.
look out for our listeners?
Okay. Do you catch them lying to others, or do they over exaggerate to make themselves look good? That's a good one.
Oh, so do they start to say things like, "Oh, I know so and so"? They might name like a director of a company that's well known, or say that they, I just played golf with that person, or yeah, I went to dinner with that person, and it's somebody of, even if it's a pastor, and oh yeah, I know the pastor very well. We go out and do things, and
Yeah. And anything that's going to put them in a favorable light. That oh, I'm important. The whole thing is to try to get out that understanding that I'm important and I hang out with important people. It's all about the image again. I remember, and I think we have talked about this before too, Tyler, where it doesn't necessarily have to only be spouses or dating partners that are the narcissist. It can be leaders that are in our lives. It could even be church leaders that are in our lives, right? I remember one pastor's wife
right.
having the stage and saying, saying that, we have to be better as Christians to, confess our sins to one another. And that's true. The Bible says that in James, book of James.
Yes.
And
Yes.
She said that, and then she said, and she goes, here's an example. And she says, okay, so the other day my husband told me something, but then I was with him and he was talking to somebody else and he told that person a totally different thing. And she said, so I called him out on it. And so we have to be willing to not just, admit our own faults, but call each other out. And I kind of laughed to myself. So I was like, she should have been calling herself out on something and announcing that in front of the whole crowd, because it really didn't seem appropriate for her to be confessing
calling out
for him.
somebody else's stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I'm going to point out your mistakes, but I'm perfect though. I don't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So I got to find his, flaws to point out to everyone, for everyone to learn the lesson.
Right. So when I heard that, I was like thinking to myself, do I detect a little bit of narcissism there?
Right. Oh yeah, it's definitely there.
Yeah. So if it's a person that's good at kicking other people under the bus, but always making themselves look good.
Right. Because they don't do any wrong. Nothing's wrong with them. And oh, that's amazing. Wow. So okay, so they're always trying to be connected with people of high stature, status, and okay. So that's something to think about. Just listening for if you keep hearing them, and they're always trying to connect themselves with someone of a status.
Right.
Okay. Got it. What are some other things that you have seen?
Do they have a good relationship with their family members, their family of origin?
That's a touchy one right there.
Yeah, because, okay, so now remember, if you are one of these people that's going with this repetition compulsion situation where you are attracted to these people because your relationship with your family of origin was difficult, doesn't necessarily mean that you are a narcissist then. It could just be that you learned you need to keep boundaries between yourself and the narcissist in the family of origin. So, you've got to like think of all of these things and put them in a nutshell and say, does this person fit all of these things? Because if not, then you got to be fair about how you're scrutinizing here. So, the person that doesn't have a good relationship with their family of origin, not every single one of those people are narcissists. So we got to clear that up.
Okay.
But looking at that, plus that, do they hit on all those things? Then that might be an indicator.
Like the several things we just talked about before, are they checking all those, boxes?
Right.
What about if they're a dad that's like totally disconnected from their child? So that may be a whole nother thing, but I'm going to let you speak to that.
So you're talking about if somebody's dating somebody that's a dad and is disconnected from their child?
Right.
Okay. Well, that would be a good indicator that this person's not putting their priorities first, the right priorities first. I mean, if you brought a child into the world, then that little person needs you, and that little person needs to know that a very empathic dad would never let their little boy or little girl go through life not knowing them.
And then they'll say something like, oh, well, it was the mom. She kept, she's the one that's been telling him stuff. And that's why, he doesn't want to talk to me, or she doesn't want to talk to me, whoever the child is. And they'll say, oh, well, she doesn't call. And I tried to call on a birthday and they don't respond. And it's almost like they put all the burden on the child to reach out and make the connection, and they almost have no responsibility.
Right, because they
What
can't
about
empathize, right, they
Yeah.
can't empathize with the fact that they're the adult in the situation, and they're the ones that are supposed to be doing the work, not the kid.
Right. So it's almost like when you're dating a person, you want to listen for if they have a child and what is their relationship with that child, because I think that's important
It is very important.
because people, I think, are overlooking that.
Mhm.
I think they're overlooking that because you only hear one side of the story, and unfortunately, you hear the child side of the story or even the mother of that child to know exactly what was the whole reason of what's going on.
Right. And the thing too, it might be tempting for a person that is dating a narcissist, doesn't realize it, of course. And that person has a child and they don't have a relationship with that child. It might be tempting for that person to go along with that because, oh, that means that when we go places, we don't have a little one to drag along and all the paraphernalia that comes with a little one, right? Or even if they're, middle school kid, we don't have to go to these games, and we have other things we can do, right? So it could be tempting to be like, okay, if it's okay with him, it's okay with me. But no, that's a sign. There's something wrong there.
That should actually be a red flag, is what you're saying.
Yes.
That should be a major red flag, because if they're not engaged with their own child's life, going to games, going to, musical recitals or whatever it is the child is into, it's almost like they're not even showing interest in their own child's interest in what they, you know what I mean? So it's like, what does that mean for you? That's their blood. That's who they brought into the world, and they're not even paying that child any attention.
Right. And if you wind up having a child with them and then something happens in your relationship, they're not going to be in your life either. So, there's a lot to look at there. So
interesting. So now when it comes to the mother, father, siblings, what kind of things can you expect to hear, like things that they would say about those relationships? And there was no effort.
Well, does he show respect to his mother? Is he respectful of her? Does he love her? The father and son relationship, I would say, did he learn good, respectful treatment? Was the relationship between the parents one where the father treated his wife with respect? Because that, now you have to remember, there's learned behavior that comes into this, and not everybody that sees a parent behave wrong is going to become a person that's going to do the same thing. A lot of people, they watch it and they're saying, I'm not doing that when I'm older, I'm going to change that up. So, but you've got to be watching all these different things, because it could be a perfect storm. And so you want to see, what is this person all about? What are they like? With siblings, are they friends with their siblings? Doesn't necessarily have to be that they're so close that they get together every week or whatever, but one of those things where, even if they only call each other once a month, guys are not usually as good at making phone calls as girls are, siblings, so is there enough of a relationship with the two that you'd say that they genuinely love each other?
Right. Oh, wow. So it's almost like what you're seeing with how they interact with their parents, siblings, their own children. It's almost like a picture of what you can expect with them in your relationship, or how things may go in the future or later on down the line, however it may be.
Yes.
Because it's not like it's a miracle is going to happen and they're just going to change, right? They've kind of been acting that way for some time.
Yes.
Interesting. So your advice would be, if you see these signs, don't just take it as, oh, that's not a big deal. It's actually
a warning sign,
insight to what's to come later.
Yeah, these are warning signs for sure. And then just a little, let me see, how many times were they married before? Not everybody that is married more than one time is a bad person or a narcissist. The thing is that that's just one of the other criteria to be looking for. Also, if you find somebody that's been married 4 times,
right,
and in each relationship did not divorce the first person before they ended up with the second and the third and the fourth person, what causes all that? There's something not quite right there. So you want to make sure that, there's not something going on so that's just like another little like thing to be watching. Is it because this person is empathic and is married for a narcissist? That's the other thing. Could it
Right.
be that they just don't know how to pick them? So, and that could be. So you don't want to judge a person because they've been divorced more than one time or anything. You want to be taking all these things into consideration and saying, okay, this person
Right.
is usually very charismatic.
Right.
So a lot of times, most of the time,
Oh, of
if they're
course.
charismatic on the outside with you, that's great in the beginning, but don't necessarily believe that it's always going to be. But if they're
Right.
charismatic with everybody else, okay. But also be watching that, because oftentimes they'll be charismatic
Mhm.
with certain people types. If they are, let's say, the owner of a corporation that has a lot of employees, are they kind to the employees? Do they take care of them? Do they
Oh,
have empathy to make sure that these people feel good? Or do they kind of treat them kind of like the wait staff idea, right? Do they treat them
right.
as subordinates? And are they very, conceited about what they've attained? And they want everybody to know who they are.
You're saying it's like, listen to, if they're a manager, supervisor, leader, whatever it is, owner of a company, listen to how they talk about the subordinates and
Yeah.
what they say about them. Is it
Mhm.
positive? Is it negative? Is it always negative?
Right.
Uh, is there nothing good these people can do? And like, they're just, oh my gosh, like, who are these people? Like,
Right. Are these people
everything.
that work for him just tools for him to continue to get what he's getting, his money or whatever? Or
Right,
are they actually people that he cares about, that they progress in life and that they are able to see, their lives improving? And so
right,
I know CEOs that are both ways. I know some that want to see the improvement and are doing a beautiful job of it and know how to do team building and make their
right,
their team feel like a team, and they they give them the money to show their appreciation and
right.
bonuses and that kind of thing. And then I see the other types that are very, very stingy and kind of almost want to see the people that are struggling continue to struggle, because then it makes them look good. So
Right. Because yeah, because now I'm above them and they can stay below me, right?
mhm,
Wow. So
mhm,
I definitely, Karen, this has been such an engaging conversation. And, we just want to continue to add value to you guys out there, our listeners. So if there's anything that we touched on in this episode that you want us to maybe go into a deeper dive, and also kind of elaborate a little bit more. So
yes.
we want to hear from you. So YouTube, just go ahead and put your comments in there. With
Mhm.
this podcast, we want to make sure we are helping the people, coming from a, like I said, Christian perspective. We're not bashing anyone, but we want to be able to give you the tools and the ability to know
Have the
how to
awareness.
engage and live life with these people. Because sometimes you're not always going to be able to separate from them. You're going to have to live life with them. So we want to be able to give you the tools and to be able to do that. Anything else you want to share with the listeners, Karen?
I just think, making sure, if you are a person that's experiencing the difficult life with a narcissist, that you do take care of yourself, do self-care when possible. I know that sometimes there's so much control, it's hard to be able to, get out and do some of the things that you want to do for yourself. But definitely be around people that love you, care for you, and realize that it isn't you that's causing this problem. It is a disorder that this person is living with, and unfortunately you're the person that has to also live with them and deal with it, so it's not easy. But you're not alone. This is a place for you to kind of get some thoughts out there by just putting your comments in, and make sure you subscribe to us.
Yeah, subscribe, like, share, Narcissist, I'm asking for a friend. We're here. So just make sure you tune in for our next episode. And in the meantime, just take care of yourself, do that self-care, and just remember to look out for those little tips that you gave us earlier, Karen, about spotting a narcissist when you're dating, because we want to make sure that you are not going to get yourself back into a situation that's going to have you depleted. So thanks,
That's
guys,
right.
for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.